I can start this off now because this is my show this week.
Yeah, cheers.
It is. So cheers, everybody. As everybody got a drink. Elaine, do you have a drink? That's my girl.
Yep.
All right. So cheers, everybody, and welcome to On the Topic of.
Yeah.
I am the host this week. My name is Logan. With me are the victims, as
Hello.
and Elaine. Hello.
Hi. Hello.
Episode 2. Let's go.
And episode 2, and today we're on the topic of origin stories. Now, I'm an asshole, and I did not give them any more than that to go on. So they have no idea where I want to take this. So this is gonna be fun. Have you done your research into the fact that you can't research? Elaine, did that kill you knowing that you couldn't do background, that you were being just kind of buried?
Yeah, so I did the best background. I was like, I need to do background for this, and then I started kind of with superheroes, because I think that's comics is where people's mind go when I think origin stories. But then I was like, what about the origin stories of us as humans? So then I did a deep dive in evolution and
Oh my God.
how all of the science. It was really fascinating, actually, about how we evolved to be these species. And then I was like, what about the origin story of companies and technology and all of anyway. So I don't really know how this will go.
Well, so here's the thing.
He's definitely done their research.
That's right. It's gonna go. You're still gonna fuck it up.
See.
So
Yeah.
So we're gonna go a little bit of everywhere at this, and that was always gonna be the intent. And the place we're starting is everybody has an origin story.
Yeah.
And they have a personal story of how they became the person that they are. And usually when you have people who are very self-aware, that know who they are, that have spent time in introspective nature, they can tell you a bit about what they know makes you who they are, right? So for me, when I talk about my origin story, you two have spent a lot of time with me at this point, and you know that I am a down for whatever, try everything. Tomorrow is never guaranteed person. I'm not the type to say no to an experience because don't know when I'd get a chance again.
Yeah.
And for me, that entire thing came about in 2011, which seems late in life, right? For somebody that I would have been 31 at the time. But what happened is my father died at work. And he was months away from retiring, and he'd always made these big plans with my mom to go do these things to, once I retire, we're going to get on the motorcycle, we're going to travel the US, we're going to see all these things. And he never did it. He just worked and worked and worked for the chance to do it and never got the opportunity. And he could have taken the opportunity at any point in time. Instead, he chose to put it off until later. And as soon as that kind of hit me, and I kind of said, no, that's not how I'm doing this. I could die tomorrow. Fuck that. I am going to have the most fun and do the most things I can, meet the most people, and leave the most lasting impact I can. And that's basically how it made me who I am today. But the two of you come from very different places than me. So now, Elaine, what would you say is your origin story?
Ooh, I also thought about this a good bit, because I feel like I have a very unconventional background, and one thing I've always struggled with in my life is I feel like people perceive how my life is now, and think that's how my life has always been, and that's really couldn't be further from the truth. I feel like most people know that I have a massive family that played a huge influence. I grew up, I was homeschooled, but not not really homeschooled. Like I guess the one thing that I've still yet to pin down, like I think it's just something I was born with, is like the curiosity and drive of like I've always wanted to discover and go to school and be a scientist and like learn. And I think that's just something I was born with. But like I really had to like pave my way to I live in New York now in a very nice apartment and just graduated from Columbia and Ivy League. Like I am no I'm definitely totally aware of like how privileged I am, but I also had to put in like a lot of work to be here to get to this point. I grew up in a massive family. Like I said, I was homeschooled, but homeschooling for us was there's too many kids. There's too many kids of too many, like we're all on different developmental stages. We're all supposed to be learning different things. Like that was just like it's just too much for my mom to have sat down and taught us each individually what we were supposed to be learning. And I like knew that from a very young age. Like I want to be a scientist, and I am like I'm 10 years old and I don't even know how to multiply or divide yet. Like I can't read a clock. Like I know I'm not going to be able to be a scientist on this trajectory. We were super, super poor, like homeless for a period of my childhood. Like I didn't grow up wealthy, even though my family has like money now. Like my origin story is night and day compared to what my life looks like now. But I just had like something inside of me where I was like, I have to go to school, and I would like beg and beg my mom to take me to school, and she like we couldn't afford school, and public schools in Louisiana are not great. Like from an early childhood, I would like make my mom like drive me, and I would just sit outside of this gate at this school that I eventually ended up going to, but I would just sit outside and watch the kids play on the playground just because I just wanted to go to school so bad, and I just really wanted to learn. And my childhood was a lot of like, well, if you just like go play outside. So I was like, we'd go to the library because that's what homeschool kids do. And I was like trying to teach myself as much school as I could, so that when I finally got the opportunity, I'd be ready. And going into my 7th grade year, I finally convinced my parents to send me to school, and they were like, I had to take an entrance exam to get in, totally bombed that, failed that, and then I just sat in the principal's office as a little 6th grader at the time and bawled my eyes out. And I was like, I want to be a scientist. I want to go to school. Like, I want to learn. Like, please, 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 please let me go to school. So they said, we'll give you 1 year. They didn't admit any of my siblings because my siblings just like didn't really care as much as I did. They were like, this child, she wants to be here. She wants to learn. She doesn't know anything, but we're going to accept her. None of my siblings got into the school. So I was like the only one out of my 1,000,000 siblings that was privileged enough to be able to give them the opportunity of an education. And it was like really rough. Like I was failing out of everything. Like I said, I was in 7th grade. I still didn't know how to multiply or divide. I had never heard of like, I didn't know my presidents. I had never heard of like World War I, World War II. Like I just felt so out of my element, but I was so excited. And I ended up asking like the dean of the school if I could drop my foreign language studies so I could take double all of my classes with the students who didn't speak English. It's like ESL classes. So I was taking each of my classes twice. And it was one was taught at a normal pace, and then one was taught at a slower pace to English as a second language students. So I was like able to catch up. But I don't think I've ever worked so hard in my life as I did when I was in 7th grade. And I ended up like finishing that year as one of the top in my class. And I just had all these professors and school administration behind me that they were like, you're very gifted, and you have a drive that we haven't seen in other students. And it took a few years for my my siblings to catch up to be able to then pass the entrance exam to go to school, because then my mom tried after I finished my year. She was like, well, look what she did. Like, can my other kids go to school now? And they were like, nah, no. Like this kid's kind of different when it comes to education. And so it took a few years for my siblings to get in. I just felt like very, very lucky. I think that kind of drive has like carried me all the way here. So I don't, but I think that was just something I was born with. Like I've put a lot of thought into like, where did that come from? And I think I was just like born with such a drive. But yeah, I definitely have like, I think an unconditional, like, I'm not unconditional, but unconventional education background and just like upbringing. And I feel like it's something I've struggled with my whole life, because I feel like people meet me and perceive me as like someone who is just like raised this way. And I, just like comes from parents with money. And I do have parents with money now. But also I had to fight very, very hard from a very young age to like be who I am. And I'm very proud of that. And I think that like really does make me me.
Yeah, I think there's a couple of things that really like hit different knowing you with that story. One of them is anybody that has heard your crazy ass stories and asked themselves, how the hell did you get out of that? Or did you live through that? Or whatever. Basically hear that like, oh, because you started life doing that. You started life finding a way to make you to do the things you wanted to do. And because you've always had to find a way through the most unconventional means possible.
I don't know.
Are you dying? Did you disappear from me?
Looks like we've frozen.
I don't know what you're saying. I can't hear you. I'm going to switch headphones.
Oh, this is the shit that we always get to witness every single time.
The headphone
and it's perfect.
Fuckery.
Fuck, my headphones don't work.
Oh, no.
Shit, I gotta swap them out. Maybe I shouldn't use just cat ears. Maybe I should use something else entirely that's like good quality. Who knows? Maybe I should, oh wait, are they on the wrong ears? I guess I don't know. Would that have an impact? Are these smart enough to know that? And now the cat ears, she's trying really hard. Now she's on.
I'm back. I don't know. It was like my thing was like muting, and then I would turn it up and it would like mute again, and then I'd turn it up and it would like mute again. And I was like, what's happening?
So everything you just said.
What I was saying.
Yeah.
Oh, fucking Christ. Okay. So what I was saying is that, we have all these insane Elaine stories. Like, I was kidnapped in New York by a cabbie. How are you here? I got out of it. And those types of things make a lot more sense with the background of knowing that you always had to find a way. Like, since you were a little kid, you had to find a way to do the things you wanted. You had to find a way to get where you needed to be. You had to think outside the box to do whatever. And so when you're getting those shit situations, like getting in a car wreck covered in blood, being catcalled on the side of the road, hours away from anybody you still found a way out of it.
Yeah, I'm a survivor.
You're definitely that. But I also think, and this is another, I guess it's a question more than anything else. Do you feel like the way that you had to do that growing up has made things feel easier for you than they really are?
Like, yeah, maybe, because I don't think like I am someone who's just kind of like, everything's gonna work out. Like I'll find a way. Like, and I don't really get stressed about being overwhelmed or like, I need to find a place to live soon. Like I need to find a new job. Like I don't really get stressed about these things, because I'm like, even if I have to live in unideal circumstances, like I'm really not worried about it. I'm gonna figure it out. And I feel like people around me get really stressed, and they're like, are you like, what are you doing, and when are you gonna figure this out, and like what's your plan? I'm like, I don't know, but like I'm gonna figure it out. And I really like when I look at my life, like that year of seventh grade was like the hardest I've ever worked, and I don't know that I'll like maybe at some point in my life I'll have to do something where it's like I have to work harder than that, but I really can't do like the amount of work it was to catch up in school was astronomical, but beyond that, like the culture shock that it was to go from like the environment I was raised in to being in school. When I went to school, I went to a very wealthy Catholic all girls boarding school, and so like just like the culture shock to go from being like I'm homeschooled with my million siblings, like we kind of like are very poor, live paycheck to paycheck, like we don't really have much, like have lost our house a few times, to go from being like I'm in a very social setting with people who were raised like very differently than me. I've never really had to like socialize in this way, and like these people have just different ways of thinking. Like I definitely felt a bit like an outsider, and was like, how do I relate and adjust, and to go through all of that while also just trying to like survive in the academic environment, and like know that like, okay, in order to reach the goals of what I want to do with my life when I get older, I have to like also topple this hill and like reach this milestone and like adjust to all this. That's just a lot for like someone who's like 11.
You're right. It is. And
Yeah.
I knowing the lazy intellectual that I am or was or whatever, it boggles my mind to think of like, would I have had the drive to fight that hard? Probably not. Like that just, for me, it was, I mean, college was hard for me because I just elected to not study, right? Like
Same.
I would just not. And if like the most diabolical thing that anybody ever did to me in college was for my senior capstone class, the professor's like, here are all the paper assignments for the for the entire term, including your final paper. Here are the topics. Here's everything else. They're just all due by the end of the semester.
Oh, I love when professors do that.
I wrote like 100 and some odd pages in roughly 72 hours with no sleep. I mean, I didn't sleep. I just did it because they were all due and I hadn't done them. And
Yeah.
like, I know that's me though. Like deadlines spur me to do things. And if I don't have a deadline, I don't fucking do it. And it's just, that's always been me because my brain is always going, don't worry about it. You'll be able to do it. No problem. But then like the pressure collapses in, but it never breaks me. It just, I just do it anyway. But it sucks when I have to like do that. And so that's a much different tack than you had. And like, I could get away with doing standardized testing without studying. No problem. But all of my classes past like my second year of college there were no tests. It was all papers. And so I can't just I actually have to read shit and like have informed thoughts on all of this and like attend classes, which is also a thing that just didn't appeal to me sometimes. And, it was hard because of that, but that's a completely different reasoning. And I'm still the same when it comes to that. Like, not necessarily like deadlines do spur me. Like that is still true. Like I will still get things done in a reasonable time. But even when like I'm doing Flesh and Pod, it's if I'm recording on a Monday, I am now up until 1 a.m. when my alarm goes off at 5 to make sure that the show gets posted and is out there on time, rather than they can wait a day. No, like there's a deadline here. God damn it, this has to come out. And so that's what I do. and then I regret it the next day. But as you are, your reputation in the circles we run in is you are a goddamn wild man.
Yeah.
And I happen to know that that's not all that you are, because you and I have just had conversations sitting at a table together and just hashing it out. And
yeah,
while we both are very good at playing the characters we play in life that are just dialed up versions of ourselves for the most part, I know that there's a lot down there. So it's your turn. As what's your origin story?
Yeah, well, believe it or not, I grew up in multiple pubs, right? So
I believe that.
Yeah, so my stepdad, I never knew my dad, right? He basically left my mum and me, so I don't know who my real dad is. But my stepdad, who is now divorced from my mum, so he's not in my life anymore either, was a landlord of a pub and multiple pubs. So I was never in the same town for longer than a year or so. We were always moving around. The licenses, the pubs were getting changed, so we were always moving. So I was always quite isolated as a young kid. I never really had a group of schoolmates or school friends or anything, because I was always moving. So I never had a friendship group when I was growing up. So, and being in a pub or like an establishment like that, my mum and the guy she was with at the time was always working, because there was patrons coming in and out and stuff. So they were always, pubs are open till God knows how long, right? And people were walking in and out. So I was always left upstairs to my own devices basically the whole time. Obviously mum and that would come and check on me to make sure I was all right and stuff, but I was always a loner, always isolated when I was younger. And luckily I had a Sega Mega Drive at the time, which is, and I used to play games all the time, and that was my thing. I used to just dial in, play games, and just lose myself in those worlds, right? That's the thing that I knew how to do, which is why I'm a massive gamer now. But ultimately, in my past, I was always isolated, and I never had a friendship group. So I guess, 25, I'm 35 now, bloody hell. 35 years later, that's probably why I'm trying to make up for that. All through school and all through college as well, I didn't really have a friendship group, because I grew up not having friends, so I didn't really know how to approach it or really make friends, because I was so isolated. And, playing games and having that gaming background, at that time, it wasn't a cool thing to do. Everybody wanted to play football. Everyone wanted to play sports or whatever, and I had no one to really gravitate towards, so I never really had any long-term friends going through 5 years old to 15, 16 years old. And I was so isolated and so focused on just playing games and losing myself in a world that didn't exist, rather than actually going out and experiencing the world, which is probably why I do the things I do now, even at 35, party until 9 a.m. the next day, making up for multiple lost hours over my teenage years. But that being said, I also ramped it up from 18 years old. So my life really started at 18 years old, because that's when I was 16, 17, I didn't really know who I was, because I was always just playing games. Like when I was at school, I was not an academic. I failed everything at school. I was pretty good at English and writing stories and creating things like that, I guess, because obviously I grew up in different worlds other than this one. So English was always good. I didn't really know who I was at all after school, and I had no results to back it up, so I couldn't really do anything. I couldn't really go into anything. So I lost myself a little bit then, and again, didn't have much friends. So I discovered on the internet, obviously the internet was coming into its own, like when you were 16, 17 years old, you still had to plug the modem in to get a signal. You know what I mean? You plug the modem in and, Aaron, you're on the internet, take the modem out so I can use the fucking phone. All that sort of thing.
That was a thing, Elaine. I know that you're not going to be familiar, but that was a thing.
Yeah, so you couldn't use the phone if you had the modem plugged in. Obviously, the friends, and well, I say friends at the time, they definitely weren't. They were just internet people, and like sites like MySpace existed. Things like Bebo existed. I'm not sure whether you know these, Logan. Growing up, MySpace and Bebo.
Oh, MySpace, of course. Bebo, no.
Bebo's like another thing. I basically went into a rabbit hole on the internet, as a lot of people did, to just try and discover themselves and discover other things. And then that's when I discovered rock and metal music. I was like, bloody hell, this is different. This is like a bunch of different people from maybe odd backgrounds like myself that can relate to this screaming music. What's this all about? And then, as a result of that, I started going down a rabbit hole of music, and that's when I started practicing vocals, like screaming and singing and all this sort of stuff. And that is when I found my confidence, because I found out that I was pretty good at it. I was pretty good at being on stage. I started going to college to do music, and I was like a vocalist and stuff. So after I practiced that and discovered that allowed me to go into college to do a music course. And that allowed me to find friends that I could identify with, and then I started getting into bands, and then my confidence just, for better or for worse, just went through the roof, because I was because I was suddenly on stage singing and screaming in people's faces, and people were like, "Oh yeah, this is great, yeah," banging their heads and everything, and then suddenly I felt like, "Oh bloody hell, this is my calling. I am a performer. That's what I should be doing. I'm a performer." So that's where my confidence really took a bit of a skyrocket, which is nice. And then that led me into the whole catching up for what I missed in my childhood and not having any friends and just burying myself in a different world rather than this one. That's where I made up for that lost time, going out, going parties, doing tour bus stuff around the UK and playing in different shows and loads of different parties, and doing things that many silly decisions and stuff that many lessons learned from going around the UK on a tour bus. But yeah, and then that's led me into what I do now. And what I also liked to do when I was growing up is document everything. So again, I used to carry around, it was like a flip out camcorder thing. You press the button, you flip out the screen, you record stuff. I used to do that all the time when I was out and about with the lads playing gigs. I used to always like film it, and then even do the selfie thing, like the GoPro thing that I do now, on that. So that really translated into, I like making videos. I like to document my experience and share my experiences, no matter how debaucherous they are, and put it on the internet, which is what's translated into the Vegas trips and
going in gaming. Yeah, it turned into I often feel like I've been a co-star in your life several times, which is so odd to me, because everybody has that feeling, especially people who have an irrational level of confidence, which I would consider myself to have an irrational level of confidence. I should not be as confident as I am. But and I understand that, like, I get it, but fuck, I don't care. We ball. And so everybody kind of has that viewpoint when they walk through the world, that they're the main character of the story, when in all reality they're no better than a bit part in anybody else's. And but so that it's jarring when I can watch what you've documented, and I understand that I am literally a side character, and that just fucks with self-perception so goddamn hard. Because, like, wait a second, I really am just a side character in other people's stories. Ew. Ew, I gotta go do something over the top now. And it's like, shut up, brain, you're fucking stupid. But I
was lucky.
It's just
I was lucky to have you in Vegas, honestly, because of the states that I got in, and you know all those states.
Boy howdy, I've been to all of them.
So yeah, it was. But yeah, I think that's really where my story really ended up going, to a certain degree. So making up for lost time, and then putting myself in these situations where I can make lots of friends, where I can just put myself out there and not give a fuck about what anybody thinks of me. And obviously, if you do that, if you go about your life not caring about other people's opinions, that makes the right people gravitate towards you anyway. You don't waste your time with the wrong ones. The real ones come. They show themselves. And that's something I've always lived by, is as long as you're yourself, you're going to attract the people that are the real ones. Yeah, I don't regret anything, because it's led me to chatting with you lovely folks on this brand new podcast that now has 30 odd subscribers already. Yeah.
Oh shit, I don't even know. Yeah, I guess. It's really funny to me too, because that's, you have your channel that is heavily, super popular. Elaine has her show that's super popular. I have my middling little bullshit. And
Your stuff's good, mate. I love it.
I mean, that's the weirdest part about our show, and this fucks with me, is that we are not the biggest by any stretch of imagination, right? But god damn it, is our listener group just loyal? And they're there every fucking Tuesday, and it's crazed to me. Like, that's just complete aside, but it still makes no sense to me to this day. But
what was you going to say, Elaine?
I was going to say, I think it's really interesting after listening to you talk about your origin story like after filming the board game episode 2 weeks ago. Yeah. It's like very interesting to think about, like, you know, you're talking about like how you love to game, you love to lose yourself in fantasy worlds, and then you kind of translate that to like doing that like in the real life. But I think it's interesting how, like, you know, you talked about that was your gaming style, and like you kind of love just to play a game that's like fun and immersive. And I was like, I like to learn the rules and I like to win. And like, I think our origin stories are also like very reflective of the type of gaming, the way that we game. Yeah, very much so. Yeah, it was interesting listening to you talk.
Elaine's origin story was rise and grind, and that's what she does when she games. Grind you to a fucking pulp. Yeah. As is like worlds, pretties, build things, lose yourself. And then he's like, yeah, I grew up losing myself in worlds.
Yep.
Yeah.
Time to make up some time, baby.
Yeah, there's we'll do time in another episode, because that'll be another topic for an episode. It's just so interesting where people come from to me, because that also informs like a lot of other broader things, and everything has like a point that it starts, right? And usually we can always locate like our fandoms, you know, like where did we start becoming a fan of this thing? And you go back and you start tracing the roots back, and you're just like, that's the point, that's the spot right there. And we can keep building on that as we come forward, and it really just tells the story of us. And because, you know, I think that the reason I picked this topic is because you two have two of my most valued traits in humanity, probably actually just the two most valued traits I have in human beings, which is raw, blatant honesty, and self-awareness, which usually go hand in hand. Like knowing, you know, where you came from, how you are, why you are the way you are, why you make the decisions you make, and know the people you gravitate, know your strengths, know your weaknesses. Like, that's great. I mean, that's exactly who you want to be around, because they're the type of people that when you're in those situations, when you have problems, or or the opposite, when everything is great, they're the ones that are either going to help you diffuse the situation or amplify the good times. And they're not going to be the ones that bring you down. Yeah. And that's always the best, is when you can know, I know that when I'm going out with Azri Lane, that my good time is not going to get shit on, because I have these two with me, and this is going to be great, because if anything starts to get shitty, they're going to just pivot. Or if I notice something going bad, I'm going to pivot. Yeah. And so we're also going to steer ourselves through in the best way possible so that we're all enjoying life. And because of where I came from, that's what's important to me, is enjoying life, because growing up, I didn't have a lot of that. We didn't go on vacations. We didn't have a lot. And so it became just completely important. Like, the most important thing to me is to find the joy in life and experience it to your fullest. And I think that both of you have the perspective to do that.
Yeah.
But that's not the only origin stories I wanted to talk about, because that wouldn't be fun. Instead, we're going to talk about fictional character origin stories, because those are more fun. So as I'm going to give this to you because it's a layup for you, I think I can probably accurately say that your favorite character origin story is probably just Superman, right?
Oh yeah, and it's gonna be hard to talk about this, because I know you've seen the fucking film already, and
I did go to an early screening. Yes.
Was it the Amazon Prime one? Was it the Amazon Prime?
Yeah, it was. Yeah.
Okay, nice. So just to timestamp this episode, we record on Thursdays, and it's July 10th when we record this. So the Superman in the UK comes out tomorrow on the 11th of July, so I'm seeing it tomorrow night. But Logan's already seen the film, which is hilarious. But yeah, I think
doesn't seem funny to you, as
no. I've got a Superman outfit, which some of you may or may not have seen, and I'm going to be wearing that to the premiere tomorrow. So that'll be fun. But yeah, I can, like, to be honest, I never grew up reading Superman comics. I was just introduced to him later in life, to be honest. I grew up with a lot of the early 2000s superhero movies, like I think the first. We'll get on to Superman in a moment, but I grew up with I think the first superhero film that I ever saw was Blade. Do you remember that? 1998.
Oh yeah, of course.
Blade.
Yeah.
So I grew up with the early 2000s, and bloody hell, that's right, that's 1998, so that's 1990s Blade. So Blade, X-Men, the 2000 movie, Spider-Man, which is 2002, and then, funnily enough, Daredevil, Ben Affleck in 2003. I love that when I was growing up. But yeah, so they're the early sort of 2000 films that I grew up with. I used to love because all of those early films all had origin stories, because obviously nobody really knew the characters outside the comics, and that's where the mainstream media started to know about them. So Blade is really, really interesting, because obviously he has, to a certain degree, evil in him, because he's half man, half vampire. So I liked the fact that he had darkness that he could use, but he had the thirst that he had to quench as a vampire, half man, half vampire. So I really, really liked that origin story. X-Men is just X-Men. So many different origin stories there. Spider-Man was really, really cool, because obviously Peter Parker was just a geeky, nerdy kid that was getting picked on and stuff, and then suddenly he had all this power out of nowhere, and he had to decide what to do with it and how to use it effectively. And similar to Daredevil, obviously Daredevil's...
Wait, isn't that just Elaine?
Yeah.
Hold on. Is Elaine Spider-Man?
I think so, yeah.
Whoa. I don't think...
Shooting some webs.
Have you made web fluid before? Yeah, have you made web fluid before? You are a scientist.
It comes out of you?
No, not web fluid, no. That'd be cool, though.
It would be, yeah.
You should try
Maybe
that.
I should.
Yeah,
Maybe I should.
But yeah, I can't remember where I was going with that. I was just saying, like, I grew up with those films as like good origin stories for superheroes, but I relate to Superman more nowadays because of how isolated and lonely that character is at its core. Because he is just an alien that is on planet Earth, trying to desperately to fit in when he can never do that, because obviously he's Superman here, Clark Kent there. He always has to be one or the other. He can't be himself. He can never be himself. He can't go down the bowling alley, or can't do play a game of soccer after work to blow off steam with the lads or whatever, because as soon as he gets angry or kicks a ball, it's going to go flying through and probably puncture someone, you know? So I love that character, with the fact he has to be Superman here and Clark Kent there. The only person really that knows his true self is his partner, Lois Lane. She knows everything about him, you know, and I can't wait to see what that dynamic's going to be like in this new film. But yeah, the isolation, the separation, I think I can relate to, based on my origin story that I told just now, and how he has to sort of deal with that. But yeah, that's where I was going with, with that.
So yeah, Rachel Brosnan is top 5 dead or alive for me. So her as Lois was absolutely perfect. Marvelous Miss Maisel is one of my favorite series ever. So that is super, like, in my wheelhouse. Yeah. Elaine, I don't know what your favorite fictional anything is, honestly. I mean, because Chapel Roan's not a fictional character. And I guess it kind of is to a degree, but
yeah, I was also thinking about this, because I was like, okay, let me do some, like, I obviously expected to talk about some comics and superhero type characters today, but I also was like, I'm going to be honest, like, I'm not really a Marvel person. I think I stopped watching, like, these big movies after Ragnarok.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know, just kind of like all these movies feel very, like, cash grabby to me. And once they got to that point where it was like, oh, this is just like a big, like, cash like conglomerate. Like I was like, I'm tapping out.
Yeah.
So I'm not like as invested. I kind of like tapped out of superheroes at that point, and I always like found the superheroes like interesting. Tony Stark was probably always my favorite, just because I really like his origin story, and then I like how he was like, I'm just like kind of gonna be a good guy, but he's also like not super always a good guy. Like I kind of like his. I kind of like his controversy as like a hero, but I don't know, because like during my childhood, I wasn't really allowed to consume media because I was raised so religious, and I'm only 26, so I'm a fair bit younger than both of you, but
fair bit,
okay. I still watched, like, my childhood was still like old movies. I think I was trying to think like what superhero movies did I consume as a child, and it was like the 1966 Batman where he's like, shark Robin, like throw me the shark repellent,
the bat shark repellent.
Oh my god.
Yeah, like he has like all these like crazy animal repellents and like throws him down the shark repellent, and like Batman has his shark on his leg and sprays it. It's like, like when that was my exposure to these superheroes as a kid. I think like the only like more modern movies I watched as a child were like Star Wars and Lord of the Rings.
Oh yeah.
And looking back at like, okay, what characters have my favorite origin stories, and what kind of fictional characters do I like really love now? I'm not really like, surprisingly, I think I'm more of a nonfiction type of person. But I also, I gotta be honest, I find like villain origin stories a lot more enticing.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Like I want to know how the antagonist got there, because like every story has an antagonist and a protagonist, and I think like to me, maybe in a twisted way, I'm like, yeah, of course it makes sense he's gonna be a good guy. Like, yeah, he's gonna pick being a good guy, but like what makes these people evil? Like why are they evil? What made them choose the dark side? Episode 3 Star Wars, like like how like
Hayden
like,
Christensen, here we go again. Oh fuck this.
Here we go again. Yep, fuck it. Just get away. Yep.
Yeah.
Elaine's gonna start. Yeah, she's blushing like it's crazy right now because she's thinking of it.
It's a swamp over here.
I was actually like, as a child, I was much more into Ewan McGregor in episode 3, but I think
yeah.
We did talk about this in Vegas. So like episode 3 is like my favorite because they all look so good. But
I agree.
That's off topic.
Or is it on topic?
It could be. But like villain origin stories, I think like I really enjoy it. People that I was thinking about, like, childhood media that I consumed that I still like really like today, that Wizard of Oz, like I think the Wicked Witch of the West is like the most like, she's like a very classic like monster in terms, she's green, she's scary, it's like, yay, Dorothy slays her and then like moves on. And I've been obsessed with Wicked since I was like a kid, like the musical. I know it's like a big movie now too, but even that like offers some insight into this like very character that I grew up as being like a villain, because of course like Wizard of Oz I loved that movie as a child, and it's like that offered more insight into like this villain, and kind of like presented the idea of like origin stories to me as a kid. And I think back about, I don't know, like this one is very cliche, but like Willy Wonka, I think is like often over. Yeah, he's a villain. Like he's objectively, I think, a villain. Like people don't talk about that, but like Willy Wonka is a villain. And the Wonka movie with Timothée Chalamet, very hot take. I love that movie. I watch it all the time.
Still haven't watched that one.
No, I haven't either.
I was so burned by the Depp movie that I'm just like, nah.
No, it's bad. It's bad.
Oh, okay, it's bad. Okay.
No, it's bad. It's bad. It's a hot take that I love it because it is bad, and I think it is like kind of weird to give Wonka like a backstory. I feel like there's a disconnect between like the Wonka that we see in Wonka and like the Willy Wonka. But yeah, I found myself more gravitated toward villain origin stories.
Yeah, Gene Wilder's Wonka is
Terrifying.
a villain.
Pure terrifying.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, yeah.
He hand waves kids dying, like basically.
I
And
think there's like an interview of Gene Wilder, and he's talking about like how he acts and portrays Wonka. And I think like one of the first scenes, like he's like, "Oh, I'm gonna like when the kids meet Wonka, like I'm gonna pretend I have this cane and my leg hurts and blah blah, and then I'm gonna like dance around and be happy and be fine." And like in the interview, they asked like, "Why do you want to do that? Why did you want to do it this way?" And he was like, "Because then it immediately presents the audience with this sense of like, is Wonka ever honest? Like, what are actually his intentions?" And his Gene Wilder's Wonka's like, yeah.
Yeah, it's weird because I see Wilder's Wonka as almost a Magneto type character, where the intent, like the end goal, is something theoretically positive. You know, it's the acceptance of, you know, for Magneto, it's the acceptance of Jews, the acceptance of mutants, right? Like that's his thing. They're tied together to him. And with Wonka, it's you look at all the horrible shit that Wonka does throughout that movie, throughout Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, or Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory. And at the end, when Charlie gives him back the everlasting gobstopper, what does he say? He says, "So shines a good deed in a weary world." He was wanting to force goodness out of the last remaining person that he could find. And he was probably ready to nuke the world if they didn't.
Yeah, but it's also weird, like how like Wonka is like this like big corporation in the middle of like so much poverty, and it's like he just really brought like he really doesn't
Yes.
like he is like the Jeff Bezos of the Wonka unit, like of the Willy Wonka like CMU. Like he is like he is like the millionaire who's like everyone around me is like really poor,
fuck
like,
'em.
starving and dying, but like I'm gonna invite all these children to my factory, and then I am going to like put them intentionally through like hardship and crazy situations, and whoever like is the best, they get my whole entire corporation and everything that comes with it, and inherit all of these Oompa Loompa slaves, basically.
Slaves, basically, yeah.
Yeah, like it actually is really crazy, and I think that Wonka is undermined as a villain. And to tie it back to so when I was thinking about superheroes that I love, like origin stories, the most obviously Spider-Man, I think is like a classic. I think that origin story is like just so good, so solid. And I was like, I like top three, like Superman, Batman, and Spider-Man, I guess I think are probably like top three. Like they've kind of had this origin story that's like I feel like when you look into the origin stories of a lot of superheroes, like a lot of them have kind of shifted and like been morphed and changed throughout their development, but I feel like those three like really have such solid origin stories that like everyone knows them. When you have a movie, you don't even have to explain like how any of those heroes got to this point. Most people just know it. But I was like, Tony Stark's really interests me, and I really dislike him as a character because he's kind of shitty. And then it made me realize like, oh, maybe I'm kind of more interested in villain origin stories. And like the Joker also, who just doesn't really have an origin story, has kind of been given like just like
The Joker is a fascinating one. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's like I've always like I don't really like the, you know, I know that's not Marvel, but it's like I don't really like the superhero movies, but the Batman movies and the Joker movies I do enjoy, and it is because of who the Joker is as a character, and this backstory that's like you can't really explain why he wants to watch the world perish.
Yeah,
it's almost like the lack of an origin story in that case.
The fascination with Joker is that you can actually pick out like little details of where he came from, right, as you go through and read back from the 1940s through now. But the best is if you go and just read The Killing Joke. And it's It's a one-shot graphic novel that was written by Alan Moore in the late 80s, I believe. And the entire premise is that the Joker wants to break Commissioner Gordon. He wants to prove that all it takes is one bad day to make anybody into the Joker.
Yeah.
And so he shoots Barbara Gordon, paralyzes her, kidnaps her, sends compromising photos, basically the assumption that he's sending out there is that he's sexually assaulting her and torturing her, and sends them to Gordon. He captures Gordon, he strips Gordon naked, tortures him, all while Gordon's waiting there for Batman to save him, and thinks he has him broken or whatever. When Batman shows up, Batman frees Gordon, and Gordon says to Batman, "We do this by the book. He can't win." And so Batman does. He gets to the Joker. He has the Joker over throughout this entire thing, it's telling the Joker's origin story as a failed stand-up comedian that then takes a mob job. He gets knocked into a vat of acid, and his pregnant wife dies. And then the mob guys force him to do the job anyway. Then gets sucked in the vat of acid. Yada yada, becomes the Joker. And Batman's got him held over a ledge, and is ready to just kill him. Like, I'm fucking done with him. And he's, Jim Gordon had told him you got to do it by the book. And the Joker's recounting the story, and he stops and he thinks about it. He's like, wait, that's not how it was. You know what? It changed. I can't remember for sure. It changes every time I tell it. And all that tells you is that the Joker's an unreliable narrator. There is no Joker origin story because he tells it different every single time, and he doesn't remember which one is correct.
Oh.
Like, there is no Joker origin story. He's just the Joker. And it's incredible in that exactly that. And there's this one where I believe it's in 52 the last Crisis, right before New 52 or whatever, where you have Alexander Luthor, the alternate version of Lex Luthor, who was good for a while, is now broke bad. And so he's teaming with the villains to take over Earth so we can merge his Earth on top of the current reality so that his world lives, is basically what he's gunning for. And at the end of it, he's trying to get away, and he gets basically dropped by Lex Luthor of the present reality. And he's like, you did everything right, blah, 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 but you made one mistake. You didn't invite him. And then the Joker shows up and just puts a fucking bullet in his head. And it's just like, yep, gotta include the Joker. Yep. Otherwise, he might just shoot you in the face. And so that's what that fascinates me about the Joker. But you kind of brought up something that is important in all this, and that's retcons, right? So retcons are when they change continuity, when they make a change to a character. Like Superman originally Superman didn't fly. He could jump very high, like a flea, over long distances.
Right, yeah.
Leap tall buildings in a single bound. He didn't have heat vision. Even his origin story was slightly different. I mean, that has also gone through some changes over time. And, they've kept updating him and stuff like that. Same thing with Batman. They've done some work with him, although less so, because Batman's origin story is kind of perfect.
Yeah.
It's so perfect. It's so gothic. It just fits him so well. Like
the imagery,
and then you can
as well,
the psychology of Batman. Yeah, where Batman is Bruce Wayne is the mask. Bruce Wayne is the other identity. The real identity is Batman.
Yeah.
Right.
Bruce Wayne is a mask, and it's because this singular event fucked him up so bad that now he has to put on pajamas and a cape and beat the shit out of criminals for fun rather than take his billions of dollars and solve poverty in Gotham.
I like it when...
So yes, Batman's another villain.
Yeah, I like it when there's moral grey areas as well. So especially as you get older, your connections with other people in the real world start to solidify. And you know what lengths and what measures you could potentially go to if someone ever hurt them. When you look at stories like The Punisher, for instance, who had his wife and kids killed, right? And that sets him down a path of just pure vengeance and just no mercy. You can, as you get older, if someone did that to you, you can be like, I can relate to this, and would I be that mad to be able to do that sort of thing? And that's also another really interesting origin story to me, is if something like that happened to you, how would you deal with it? Like, you know, and it's just completely and utterly maddening and sort of relatable to be like, well, I could really hurt these people if they did that to me, you know?
Yeah. And my favorite origin story from comic books, if I can't separate, I have to separate them out, because if I start talking about origin stories everywhere, I have to go through Darth Vader's, I have to go through John Blackthorn's, I have to go through so many. But we'll stick with comic books. It's a character in the comic book Wanted. The premise of Wanted is the supervillains won, and they divided the world up. Mm-hmm. And every supervillain that's part of the supervillain group, that is the head of a gang, gets a continent. And this one named Mr. Rictus gets stuck with Australia. So that's who has Oceania, is Mr. Rictus. He has the smallest continent, and he's pissed about it. So he wants to go to different realities and just, you know, take their shit too, because he wants something bigger, because he got shit on. But he has zero superpowers, none. He has no gadgets. He has no anything. His superpower is that he does not fucking care.
Yeah.
He doesn't give a shit. And the reason for this was he lives this insanely pious life. He does all the right things. He donates to charities. He goes to church. He does all this stuff, you know, to be the best man possible so that he can achieve the goal of getting into heaven when he dies. He gets into a horrible accident that burns his face and scars his body, and it kills him. And on the other side, there's nothing. It's just darkness. So when they bring him back, he now knows that his entire life, all those selfless acts he was doing, had zero payback. So if there's no reason to be good, why am I being good?
Yeah.
And that's his entire thing. And there's this amazing part where the main character is part of a different group, and Mr. Rictus is walking by, and as he's walking by, the main character says, "Have fun fucking goats, Mr. Rictus." And Rictus turns around and he just about faces, walks right up to him. He's like, "What the fuck did you say?" And the head of Wesley, that's the main character's supervillain group, is trying to separate them, and he puts a finger in Wesley's face and goes, "I want to make one thing fucking clear to you. I don't fuck goats. I make love to them." And he turns around and walks away. And it's just like, this character is incredible.
Oh my God.
I mean, Garth Ennis is writing it, so of course, but I think that's like my favorite thing is it's like, what happens to a human when the assumptions they made about their eternal life just turn out to be completely false. And then they come back to like the reality that exists in front of them. Like, how much does that change them? Oh, yeah. And that's, that's always the atheist and foxholes type of conversation too. But I always found that one was fascinating. But when it comes to retconning characters, that happens a lot. I mean, we've all seen it at this point in time. But the question really that I want answered, and this is a hard one. If you could retcon one piece of your origin story, what would it be? Or would you? Would you change anything?
I don't know. I'm enjoying life so much right now. Your life as it is right now. If you're in a good position where you're loving it and it's going well, is basically a cocktail of every other decision that you've ever made up to this point, right? So if you were to change any of those things, like if any of you seen The Butterfly Effect with Ashton Kutcher in it?
Of course, yeah.
Like, he wants to go back and change different parts to see if he can get the ultimate outcome, but there is no ultimate outcome. There's never a perfect happy ending, is there? So I don't think you should regret any decisions as long as you're I'm speaking from a perspective of enjoying my life right now. I couldn't really speak for someone who was in a shit position right now, because obviously you're there as a result of what's happened before, I guess. So for me personally, I wouldn't want to change anything, because I'm here speaking to you lovely folks right now and having a great time, but it could be different for other people, I guess.
But you were, it's not like your life has always been that way, right? Like, you've been in places that you didn't want to be at those times.
Oh, yeah.
Do you think you would have made changes?
No, I don't think so.
Because you're right. We are the sum total of our experiences. That's who we are.
Yeah.
And good, bad, and different, mistakes, triumphs, everything. We are just exactly an amalgamation of everything that has come before. And it's interesting to talk to people, and you kind of get this, once you ask, most people will say, oh, I regret this, oh, I regret that. And then once you talk to them and you ask them that question of what they would change and they think about it, the answer is typically nothing.
Yeah.
They wouldn't change anything because they don't know the outcome and how it would change them and what would be different. So Elaine, question to you too. Would you change anything?
I was thinking about this. I think that most origin stories, maybe at least for protagonists, I won't speak for antagonists, but like, or thinking about like the superhero, like fit into, they are who they are because of either like they're just like the chosen one type of deal, like chance, some kind of like chance thing, like Spider-Man got bitten, or like trauma, or some combination of the three. But I feel like those are like the three main themes that you see in origin stories. So like applying that to my life and my past, like maybe there's like some traumas that I think like didn't necessarily like going through them like change me like for the better, but instead just gave me like
extra layers,
some sort of like like an anxiety, or like some sort of like a wall up around certain things. Like maybe those things I would have preferred just like not to have experienced. Like, but I also think that I wouldn't change anything, and I do think that I like thinking about it that way. I have to acknowledge that answer comes because I am, by some miracle, a pretty well-adjusted person.
Yeah.
Who can process things pretty well.
It is indeed a miracle.
It really is, yeah.
Yeah, like that I'm some like well-adjusted person who like can process things pretty well, but I don't think that like, unfortunately, like not everyone can say that. So I think that like I wouldn't change anything, but that does come from a place of like being privileged or lucky enough, or I don't know, so like something to be able to be like, well, I'm a well-adjusted person, and like I think it's still good to gone through hardship because it gives me more to work on myself, and like that's something I'm still grateful for.
Yeah, and I don't want to wish hardship.
But if
I don't want to wish hardship on anybody, but I think you almost need to have pain to some description growing up to give you those extra layers, to give you those extra protection, to be like, I'm just going to be me. I don't care about what you have to say because I've dealt with loads of stuff in the past already. So I know who I am now because of what's happened to me. So I guess I wouldn't want to change it. I wouldn't necessarily want to go through those things again, like you said, Elaine, but it's made us who we are, and I don't want to wish pain upon anybody, but it can be, and I think you can't go through life being happy all the time. It's not. Well,
it gives us empathy.
Yeah.
Right. It gives us the ability to feel for others as well, because we can we can hopefully not necessarily understand what they're feeling or how they're feeling, but know that they're feeling a certain way and do our best to acknowledge that and help them through it when we see somebody in pain and we can see that from our own experiences, right? Like, yeah. And that's part of going through those hardships. That's part of the origins of us being a cocktail of the good, the bad, the indifferent, the ambivalent, the everything. So that when somebody is going through it, we have the capacity to listen and be empathetic about it and work through those things with people rather than just be like, man, that sucks. And that's the best we got, Yeah. And
sucks to suck.
So it sucks to suck. And I think that that's valuable, right? And we got that, we as humans get that by going through not necessarily the same things, but similar enough things.
Yeah.
to come out the other side, right? And I guess that's just my, maybe semi head ass take on it, because right now I'm same as you, right? Like I'm sitting here at my desk at home. I have Transformers behind me because they're big adult toys and I want them.
Yeah.
And my biggest agony today has been about talking to ChatGPT about what the best processor I can get for split between productivity and gaming is, because mine is 7 years old. It chugs when I'm trying to render video. And now that I do content a ton, it kind of is important that I have something that can keep up. So that's been my last 2 days. And that's been like my big consternation. That is insanely privileged.
Yeah.
And that's not the life of most people.
No. But
I understand that. And I really do wish that my privilege, I wish I didn't have the privilege I have. I mean, it's easy to say, right? But at the same time, I like to believe of myself that I truly do want others to just have a better life, even if it comes at an expense to me, because I don't deserve that. There's nothing about me that deserves more than somebody else. So, but part of that, again, is the empathy that came from growing up and came from like where the things that I've seen and things that I've been through.
Yeah.
And I think that that's just true for everybody. But I also do not begrudge a single person on this earth for like thinking through and going, I would like to never have experienced that.
Oh, yeah.
Because, some shit is just fucking awful.
Yeah.
And I get it.
Yeah.
We sent Elaine. She's now in her thoughts.
Yeah, it's poignant.
I am in my thoughts. I'm like, there are definitely some things that I am like, I would like to have not experienced that. Like that traumatized me, gave me issues I'll probably deal with for the rest of my life. But then I also think like, I don't know, like no trauma that I went through was like, I guess it does go back to empathy, because I'm like, no trauma that I went through, well, there are maybe some, but like a lot of trauma that I went through, like other people around me also experienced that and went through that. And it's like, what? I don't know, that I feel bad. That I feel bad that's like, oh, there are other people who probably went through that like are even more affected by it than I am. And I'm like lucky to only be affected to the extent that I am. And it does. I guess it does go back to just like teaching empathy.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And how often have you been in a spot where because of those experiences, you're able to help somebody else through it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And to me, that's valuable. And I don't, again, that's not something I didn't put on anybody else, because I don't think that that's my spot, my place. And it's no judgment if people don't want to have that. Right. But I would never take away any of my moments of pain or any of the harder times in my life, because there may come a time where that enables me to help somebody else through something similar.
Mm-hmm.
And carrying trauma sucks. We all know that. I mean, but every now and again, you're able to make it into something that's not necessarily a net positive, but has a positive to it. And I think that that's the important part when it comes to all of it. And that's the full circle. I did it.
That's brilliant.
Yeah.
That's really good.
I'm so good at things. Look at that. No, I'm really not. But
got a degree in communication, so
that means I spent a lot of time writing a lot of pages over the course of 72 hours on a mix of substances that I am not going to discuss online. But the end of that is that I thought that it would be really interesting to kind of throw a heavy-handed curveball at people a little bit. To give them, that the I guess clarity that this isn't always going to be just giggles and things like that. Sometimes it's going to be stuff like this. It's going to be us talking about who we are, how we feel, and where we are. And I think that that's important for people to realize. I'm just not some hairy guy that says fuck on the internet like I'm a fifth grader. Thank you again to whoever that YouTube commenter was. That was beautiful.
Amazing.
And But yeah, and I think that that's important to understand that, we're here as human beings, if nothing else. And that's really who we are. We will always be here as human beings first, and then the characters we play on TV second. And
Yeah. We jump from like board games to therapy session.
That's the podcast.
Hey! Therapy sessions are great. Sometimes it just lets us get it off our chests, and I hope that it was helpful or that it was entertaining or whatever for whoever was listening. But Elaine gets the next topic.
Yeah.
So this could be literally anything.
Mm-hmm.
I already have it.
Oh, really? Are we going to tease it?
Yeah.
Or no?
Tease it.
Oh, yeah. Okay, we're going to be talking about doomsday scenarios. Is what I want to discuss.
Christ.
Oh, okay, then. Oh, yeah.
Shit. All right. Well, thank you for listening, watching, or whatever you're doing. And I guess in a couple weeks it's doomsday, so fuck me.
Doomsday, doomsday,
Doomsday.
doomsday, doomsday.